Call the regular city council meeting to order for June 15th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Horn?
Present.
Mr. Bateman?
Present.
Mr. Leith?
Present.
Mr. Welch?
Present.
Mr. Parrott?
Present.
Mr. Downs?
Present.
Mr. Keller?
Present.
Mr. Haneke?
Present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, under public participation, we have Matt Puckett. He's the LCHS LTEC Director, and he's going to talk to the council today about the home at 1704 Pekin Street. Matt, it's all yours.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just to basically give you a report on what we've done here. We've had a very positive experience with this house. We've sold the house sold for $150,500. After all costs and everything, we built it for $134,311. So we had a profit of $16,188 that we were able to split 50-50 with the state and the city. You should be receiving a check, if you hadn't already, this morning by mail for $8,094.41. I want to say right off the bat that we had a very positive experience, especially with all the scenarios that happened with school being shut down early on March 13th. We were only about 4 weeks away from really finishing it out. We were looking to be done early. But when the school shut down on March 13th, my instructor took it upon himself to finish the building out and get it completed because we had so much capital of the school involved into it. And he did an outstanding job with it. And especially, I also want to thank the former mayor, Mr. Seth Goodman, who was instrumental from December on in helping us put things together so we could sell this house for as much as we did. Pretty much every month I was giving him updates on what's going on with it. He was helping us on what we needed to put into it. We put more money in this house than we've ever put into a house, but I think it sold that because we put the extra into it, it made it more marketable for individuals to sell it. And also it was really awesome that he linked us to individuals in the community who were looking to buy homes that normally we don't have access to, and he did this all pro bono. He didn't do this for any cost. So basically got the word out for people interested in buying this house. So I'm going to say right off the bat, I think it was a very successful year, and the students learned a lot, and especially with having a first-year instructor doing this. We had 15. We started out with 17 students, and pretty much it was a great experience all the way around for the kids, and for our instructor as well, who never had done this before. So. The instructor was Mr. Ford. He owns Ford Construction out of Atlanta, Illinois. So, but once again, I'm open to any questions anybody might have, but I think this was very successful, and depending on the housing market and how it looks 2 years from now, or should I say a year from now, because we'll have to make the decision next spring whether we're going to build or not. If the housing market looks as good as it did right now and does right now, then I see us being able to finish up on that last house on that last lot.
Yeah, thank you for partnering with the city on that, Matt. Definitely night and day from the last time that you came before the council and had a discussion about the first house. Did the council have any questions or comments for Mr. Puckett? Mr. Parrott?
Matt, Steve here. Are you guys going to be? You're not going to be building a home next fall? This coming fall?
We will be. We currently on this coming fall right now. We will be partnering with Habitat for Humanity. We'll be building with them on a house on a lot that they have on First and Madison Street over by the old developmental center. That's part of the agreement that we have. And then the year after that, we will. Usually we'll decision next spring. But if we decide to, then we'll be building an FY22 on that other lot. And that lot's a lot smaller house. So we will be doing a different style house with it. We'll probably have to do a 1.5-story house with that lot because of the size of the lot compared to the other two lots.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Puckett? All right. Thank you, Matt.
Hey, thank you.
Have a good night.
Please email me.
Will do. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, moving down to the consent agenda.
Matt Puckett, Director of LTEC, about the building trades house at 1704 Pekin Street.
We have item A, payment of bills, and B, approval of minutes, May 18th, 2020, regular city council meeting, May 21st, 2020, special voting session, city council meeting, May 26th, 2020, special voting session, city council meeting, and June 1st, 2020, regular city council meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderman Keller made the motion, Alderman Parrott second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Downs,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Haneke,
Yes.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Leith,
Yes.
Mr. Welch.
Yes. Motion passes 8-0. Moving down to ordinance and resolution. We have the ordinance amending section 6-2-1 of the city code pertaining to animal control enforcement in the Animal Control Act and amending section 6-2-3 of the city code pertaining to fines for violations of the Animal Control Act. On your agenda, it will say 6-2-8. That is a typo. It should be 6-2-1. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second.
Alderman Bateman made the motion. Alderwoman Horn, second. Discussion? Alderman Bateman?
So I'll let the city attorney answer any questions, but basically, last week we were asked to work out a new animal control ordinance. The two things that were changed mainly were section 6-2-1, which, as you can see in red, is a section that names the person who would be the animal control person for the city by either services or contract, which the city contracts with Logan County Animal Control. And then the other section is basically, we discussed fines. So it came to light that the barking dog fine and the running at large fine were drastically different in the dollar amounts, and they were in different sections of the ordinance. So to simplify things, the barking dog violation and running at large violations are combined to a dollar amount that's more in line, which is $100 for the first offense, $200 for the second offense, $400 for the third, $500, and then $1,000, all within a 12-month period. Any questions? I would have Mr. Hoblet answer those.
So the, Alderman Parrott.
Well, first on the on Logan County Animal Control and their representative or representatives that would be in, I guess, in a position to issue fines. Will they have to go through any specific type of training on how to and when to decide to give a violation? What about investigation? You know, if the dog's barking and when it comes, if they have it on video, but it's not barking, when they get there, do they still give them a ticket, a violation ticket? How does that all work?
Well, basically, they already have the training because they do that on the unincorporated areas of the county, and that's exactly how we've done it in the past. When I was on the county board, is by proof, video. They determine what is a nuisance and what is normal dogs barking. The running at large can be on video. Basically, the reason for this change was they didn't have those authorities before, so now by doing this, they would be able to issue the citation or the fine or get it to the attorney to be determined whether it be a citation or fine, instead of just being the group that just collects the dogs or gets called out on those. Trying to free up a lot of the city police department's time for animal problems.
Will city police still be able then to issue violations if they happen to observe it, or is it strictly on Logan Animal Control?
Mr. Hoblet.
I believe that's an issue that's still up for negotiation at this juncture. Right now, the contract with Logan County Animal Control is still being honored, but technically expired at the end of May. Now, what's being proposed in regards to here, does the language is a little bit more blatant in regards to the powers that it does confer to the animal control. So previously within our specific city code, we had essentially that the person that we hire for our own animal control has the animal control administrator has the power to enforce the rules. We never essentially specified, or whoever we may contract with. It essentially is our own in-house person. This was an ordinance that was established in 1985 and really hadn't seen much adjustment since. So even though the contract states that Logan County Animal Control has the power and authority, to enforce these, we still never really enforced it, reflected that in our ordinance, which begs the question, if the ordinance that confers the power on the Logan County, on the Animal Control Administrator also states that they can enforce the dangerous dogs provision. So if Logan County Animal Control were enforcing the dangerous dogs provisions, dogs that were dangerous to public, and they were taking those dogs, then did they have the authority to do as such in the first place? Because again, that was never in the code. This was an issue that came up recently, I believe, when the issue of citations came up. So essentially, we're trying to reflect within our code more accurately what the contract states. And so then it kind of becomes the issue in regards to the contractual nature between the county and the council. So that'll be a question at that later juncture. But this provisions here that we have here, one, updates the fines to be a little bit more updated. The fines for being a dog at large I don't believe has been updated for quite some time. So before it was $10 for the first violation, $20 for the second, $40 for the third, $50 for the fourth, and then every violation thereafter within a 1 year period was $100. We changed that up to essentially make it $100, $200, $400, $500, and then $1,000 for each one within a year period, which resets after a year or however that would look. So there's that. And I will also note that the fines for the dogs at large, not the dogs at large, but the excessive noise, essentially barking dogs, that was removed from the police provision, essentially by putting except for dogs, and inserted into the animal control provision. And by doing as such, the fine previously for a barking dog was $150, then $250, then $350. But so now it'll be $100, $200, $400, $500. So on the low end, the fines are cheaper for the first couple violations, but they ramp up to be higher for, like, say, for the subsequent violations, the fourth, fifth, sixth. So those become much higher then. In addition, there was we readjusted the definition, or we added a definition for what animal control administrator means. So essentially means anyone who the city employs or whoever the city contracts with, aka the Logan County Animal Control, to have the powers and authorities when mentioned in 6-2-28 for the powers and authorities of the Animal Control Administrator.
So for clarification, then can city police still issue violations for animals that have excessive dogs that are barking and or that are running at large?
I believe up until this point they were issuing those violations. They've been issuing those
Right.
for quite some time.
We're not just giving it all to our contractor.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, I was just
No, I don't-
clarifying.
I don't think the intention is to take 100% of it and shift it over to animal control.
I was just trying to get clarification. Yeah.
Right.
The intention, and we'll work with Logan County on that contract, but the intention is to give animal control the authority in addition to the police department.
Thank you.
Ms. Kevlin?
Yes, I was just wondering then, so let's say you have a repeat offender or something, and this dog does get vicious, does the animal control person, the administrator, call ahead of time, or the police department automatically kind of knows the situation to come out, or if they call, do the police come right away?
Alderman Bateman.
Well, Paul can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's always been the animal control warden, if deemed necessary, calls for police backup if they feel that they're in a threatening state, because animal control doesn't, they don't carry anything that would, usually they can control the dog. It's the owner that's the problem. So that's, and police have always showed up when need be, or there's times that the animal control warden has called the police ahead of time and gave them the address, and they've met up down the street and rolled up together, especially when it's taking a dog from an owner just to prevent any. So to answer yours and Steve's, this isn't taking anything away from the police department. It's giving animal control more leeway to enforce that, trying to alleviate some of that work from the police department.
Did you want to speak, Chief?
Sure, thank you. So yes, if you have a vicious dog call, what happens is you call 911. 911 will dispatch it not only to animal control, but they will notify us immediately. So we'll get a call on the radio, our guys will head that way, and animal control will be also notified at the same time. So we will all arrive. More than likely the police will be there first. If it is a vicious dog and it's out of control, attacking somebody, we will address that situation as necessary. So, and then they will follow up if we have this contract in place. If it was after hours in the old time, we would just follow up with the citation or warnings or whatever needs to be done. So, and this is still, to answer Alderman Parrott's, it's still, the whole Animal Control Act is underneath the police provisions anyway. So it should still give us the full authority to write any citations. So,
Mr. Hoblet.
And just so the council is aware, there will be one minor correction. I was negligent in regards to the signing authority. Right now it says Seth Goodman, mayor, so I will change that to Tracy Wells, mayor pro tem.
Okay. Alderman Bateman.
And also, if this passes tonight, then this would then be forwarded on to the county for them to look at and make sure the wording is okay with them, and then to move forward with a new contract with the city, because currently we're working on a month-to-month basis with the old contract. So this is in conjunction. We wanted to get our part done first, then send it to them to make sure the wording's okay, and then they would come back to us.
Any other discussion? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Leith,
Yes.
Mr. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Downs,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Haneke.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Moving on to 6B, ordinance containing amendment number 1 to the appropriation ordinance for FY 2019 to 2020. Have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Alderman Haneke made the motion. Alderman Parrott, second. Mr. Treasurer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. You've all received copies of this, and it's pretty standard. We usually do this every year about this time, or even into July. It must be done by the end of July. And what this is, as I've explained before, is we look at each sub-fund and where we haven't appropriated enough in one line and maybe have appropriated more than we needed in another line, is change that around so that our expenditures conform to the appropriation. Very minimal number of them this year. The first one there, where we had money transferred to capital projects, we did transfer a great deal of money to capital projects. We did not use the full amount, but we did need it for the MFT as a result of the state audited about 10 or 12 years worth of MFT receipts and expenditures, and they decided we needed to repay the MFT from the general fund. So this money's by doing this, you're transferring it from one city account to the other. The others are just cases where we've exceeded what we had appropriated in one line within that fund or sub-fund, and we did, had money left or had an appropriation left in other lines. You can see we didn't spend as much for workman's compensation insurance as we had thought, but our property insurance and our liability insurance a little bit higher. And then moving on down, you see the city administrator, fire department, police, streets and alleys, so forth. We have made some minor changes there. There's nothing really unusual about any of this. One thing I will point out with streets and alleys, that additional revenue, that's the Ameren grant that you've heard so much about that pertains to lighting, and that was used to repair or upgrade some street lights. So we had $30,000 in additional revenue, which enabled us to spend that for that purpose, which is what they were designed for. The other thing down there of note, the GO bond expenditures. At the time we did the last budget and the appropriation for this year that just ended, we didn't know exactly what we were going to be using that for. We did not use much of it, but we did use it for some technology and equipment at $4,143, and so we moved that to more accurately reflect that. It would have been fine under the line that it was listed under, but to more accurately reflect that, we transferred that to the technology and equipment line. And then, of course, as with any bond issue, you have issuance expenditures, and we have so indicated that. I don't think there's anything terribly unusual about it. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer it. As you can see, it is minimal.
Any questions for the treasurer? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Downs,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Haneke,
Yes.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Leith,
Yes.
Mr. Welch.
Yes. Okay, motion passes 8-0. Okay, moving down to reports, the city treasurer's report. Mr. Conzo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. You have two reports in front of you. The first is, as I told you, we still had some bills outstanding for the previous fiscal year, and those were paid largely during the month of May. There were a handful that we paid earlier this month. And so you can see, as expected, there's a decrease in those fund balances that are marked with the double asterisks. The composite account and general fund, which is a major part of the composite account, about $42,000 worth of bills. A lot of those were energy bills, and some of those were insurance bills, and our accounts payable assistant city clerk, Ms. Shue, divided those bills up so that they were paid out of the proper year, and that's a lot of work to do that, but she was able to get that done, and we have as a result, those were paid out of the general fund. Also, the other accounts you see there, that includes sewer and MFT, motor fuel tax. We had some invoices from Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley that pertain to the sewer project and for work that was done in the last fiscal year. So we thought it was appropriate to pay them out of that year's budget. And you can see the result of that is a decrease there in those balances, which is typical of what happens every year at this time. Now moving on to the first report for the new fiscal year for this month. You see our composite account there still close to $2 million, and our general fund balance still very healthy at 1.870, a little bit over that. What is noteworthy, though, if you look, a couple of things there. If you look at the second page, you've got the investment report, and it does show at the end of May we came up a little bit in our balances in the police and fire pension fund. It's June, the stock market's been up and down. It was down a lot toward the end of last week, about 1,800 points. And today, I don't know where it finished. Last time I looked, it was up by about 300 or 400. So I'm not sure exactly where it finished, but it was somewhere in that range at about 330. So, we're going to probably continue to see this as you get good news and bad news about this COVID-19 virus and some other things, and especially that has a very significant increase on a day-to-day basis on the stock market. The other thing, which I'm more concerned about in the long run, is some of our tax receipts. And you see there in the report here, it doesn't look like there's anything wrong. Well, you look at municipal sales tax with 248,000 plus for February, which we received during the month of June. In the month of May. Last year was only 235,000. Well, that's great, but that was February, and that was before panic over the situation with the COVID-19 virus, which really didn't hit until mid-June. And if you go through these, you'll see the same kind of trend there with the non-home rule sales tax. That's up too. But when you get into March, and we'll see that during this month, we'll get the March receipts. I think you're going to see some declines, and that's going to continue through April and May and June because of the things that are shut down. And what I would say is, as I've tried to emphasize before, anything, even though something's in the budget and we're going to try to cover everything we can in the appropriation, you may want to be very careful about spending things that can be delayed. That doesn't mean delay them indefinitely. It doesn't mean eliminate them from the budget, but it means to hold off on spending them until we see how quickly this economy comes back. I think it's going to come back. I think it's going to come back strong, but it's a matter of how quickly that happens. If it doesn't happen quickly enough, you want to be sure that we have adequate fund balances to cover the things that we have to pay. Salaries being one of those things, insurance costs, fuel, things like that. You want to make sure that we're in a good position to do that until we kind of ride out this storm. And the replacement tax there, we expected that too. There's a significant decrease there. And then the last ones you see that for the state income tax, you'll notice that is down significantly already. But remember, there's been extension for federal and state taxes. A lot of people aren't filing until later as a result of that. I would guess that people who are getting refunds are filing earlier. People who are not are going to file, as extended with the extensions. The other thing that you have to note there too is that's starting to reflect by April. You're starting to see the effects of layoffs where people were paying income tax who maybe by then were not paying any income tax through the withholding tax because of layoffs. So we'll see how that continues. People are called back to work. That'll go back up. And the last one I have there is the video gaming tax, and you see there it's half of what it was, almost exactly, a little more than half of what it was in February. But that's for 16 days because they shut down the video gaming system on March 16th. So it's just a little over half there. So I would have guessed that we had a full month and we would have had 31,000 or 32,000 like we did in February. And that's shut down for March. It's shut down for April. It was shut down for May, and it's going to be shut down through the rest of June at least. I am hoping that is not the case in July. But we can pretty well conclude from that we're going to see, that it is going to be shut down through June, and that's going to result in about $100,000 in revenue that we won't get. With the exception, I would add to that I think it'll probably come back stronger once it's opened up, and you'll probably see increases for the month subsequent to that. But I don't know that it'll be enough to offset what we're going to lose in those 4 months. Same thing with sales tax and income tax. We may make it all up, but it may take, more than twice as long as it took us to lose that. So we want to be very careful with what we spend.
Thank you, Mr. Conzo. And next up is the city clerk's report. Ms. Bateman?
In the month of May, we received $471,005.37 for sewer receipts. We did receive money from the Logan Correctional Center of $117,814.21 in the month of May.
Alderman Parrott?
want to go back to Chuck for a second. Is that possible?
Yep, go ahead.
Mr. Treasurer, what would be your projection for revenue because of the loss of the county fair?
It's difficult to say because we don't have anything in, going back more than a century to really compare that to. It has to have a significant impact on the sales tax revenue. I'd like to be able to estimate how much it is, but I can't imagine that it's going to be small. It's going to be a large impact.
Thank you.
And I think even the state fair, even though it's not held in this county, a lot of people travel through here to get there, and they stop, and sometimes we've even had overflow. People stay in the hotels here and things like that, and that's gone too. So you're going to see some, probably less of an impact from that for us, but you're going to see some impact from it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all other department head reports are either on file or will be. Moving down to new business. Next, first up is the approval of the selection of Alderman Tracy Welch as acting mayor for the city of Lincoln.
So moved.
Second.
Alderman Parrott made the motion. Alderman Keller, second. And I will be abstaining from this vote for obvious reasons.
What reasons are those? I thought you'd have some comments too. Any comments?
No, I will refrain
Okay.
from making additional comments at this time. Any other discussion on the matter? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Leith?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Abstain.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Please raise your right hand, say your name, and then repeat after me.
I, Tracy Welch,
Having been appointed to the office
having been appointed to the office
of acting mayor
of acting mayor
in the city of Lincoln,
in the city of Lincoln,
the county of Logan,
in the county of Logan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I'll support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of acting mayor
of the office of acting mayor
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
You gonna make an inaugural address? Man, you signed that with a good pen. I did.
He needs 20 of them.
We have no alcohol left,
You got everyone's journal.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Moving down, the next up is advise and consent of the mayoral appointment of Bob Morrow and Kelly Frost Allison to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
So moved.
Second.
Alderman Parrott made the motion. Alderman Haneke made the second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Leith?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Next item, approval of request of proposal for engineering for the Heitman Drive replacement project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderwoman Horn made the motion. Alderman Downs, second. Discussion? Walt, would you like to speak about this one? Walt? There he comes.
Hang on a sec. There we go.
There you go.
I don't really have anything to report at this time. We've been busy with other stuff, so I have not been able to reach out yet regarding this issue. But we'll try to bring it forward here soon.
Thanks, Walt. Okay, any other discussion on the matter? Roll call.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Leith?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Next item, approval of payment of invoice number 3,709 in the amount of $17,775.01 to Petersburg Plumbing for repair of a sewer line at 515 North College Street.
So moved.
Alderman Barrett made the motion.
Second.
Alderwoman Horn, second. Discussion? Andrew, would you briefly update us on this one?
If the council has any more questions to ask about this, I'd be happy to try and answer them, but nothing has changed with the situation with the legal representation of MetroCom or our position at this time, or my position, I should say. I would like this bill to be paid so we can maintain our relationship with Petersburg. They're a good company, and they've come through for us when it's really mattered.
Alderman Parrott.
Can our city attorney give any, maybe an update with any discussions you've had with either Metcom? Is it Metcom? And have you had any discussions with their attorney about payments of bills? Who's responsible and all this?
No, I have not. And to be honest, I was unaware the council was desiring me to do as such, but I have not heard from their attorney. I will note, I believe this is the bill that was had some age to it. So I can't comment as to it, but I will note that Petersburg has done consistent work for us. I don't know as to how this bill got lost in the shuffle. I believe there was a reason that was given in the past, but I have not had any communication.
No, I was just inquiring if you had, not asking you to.
Right. Understood.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Leith?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 8-0. Okay, moving down to announcements. Does anybody have any announcements? Okay, I've got a couple items. First item is that I just want to take a few minutes. We didn't do this last week, and I thought it would be appropriate just to publicly thank Mayor Goodman for his time serving the city of Lincoln. I think stepping into the role with little political background, Seth did a very good job. He was a great ambassador for the city of Lincoln, and he did a lot of positive things for us to help move the city forward. And one thing I think that gets overlooked a lot when we have this discussion is that Seth was very good at empowering the council and giving them the freedom to bring things forward. And I think that helped us bring a lot of things of substance to the table as well. So just wanted to thank Mayor Goodman for that one. And Bob, did you have an announcement that you would like to make?
Yes.
Okay, it's all you.
Firefighter candidate testing has reopened again through National Test Network for the written test. We'll have orientation Saturday, June 27th at 10 a.m. at the Lincoln Police Department. You can find the information on the city's website, also through Lincoln Daily News and the Herald News. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. Any other announcements? Okay, I have one final announcement. So I wanted to thank Alderman Downs for taking the reign on this one. And I know that Alderman Keller had similar conversations when Mayor Goodman was here. So I'm just going to go ahead and read this statement. This statement is on behalf of the City Council to the City of Lincoln. The City of Lincoln would like to recognize all of those who partook in the Black Lives Matter rally on June 4th, the prayer vigil on the 8th, and the rally for peace, justice, unity, and understanding on the 10th. Everyone did an amazing job of showing love and support for one another. We sincerely appreciate you, and the City of Lincoln stands with you. The City of Lincoln would also like to take this time to denounce racism and racial discrimination in all forms. We stand by peaceful and orderly protests, and we believe that hatred, bigotry, and racism have no place in our city. Okay, are there any other announcements or comments? Alderman Bateman.
I'd just like to quickly thank each and every person that's visited the restaurants and the bars and shops downtown. And as you drive by, I think it started out kind of slow, but as days go on and the weather's great, we drove by Gazzardo's and stuff the other night, and the arcade was absolutely packed full, and the alleys and a couple of the bars have previously booked live entertainment inside, and they've moved it to outside and then adjusted the hours to meet the ordinance. And there's just been big crowds. And I just want to thank everybody for the hard work they put in and the effort that they're putting in and supporting these businesses. I think it goes a long way to say that this city can come together when we need be.
I would agree. I've drove around town, and just like today, I was out running errands, and the sidewalk at Emo's was just packed. And I've been downtown last couple weekends, and it has. But I think we can all agree that we'd really like to get to phase 4. The numbers seem to support that, and we'd like to see these businesses be able to get some of their customers inside as well. But kudos to them for taking a bad situation and turning it into a positive, and everybody that's participated.
I would actually like to see some of these outdoor seating venues continue in some way. If they'd like to come forward with an idea, I think it's a great idea sitting outside. I wish we could afford. They do it in downtown Springfield, and we could probably work with some businesses. But I think this is a great idea, and it shows great support.
Absolutely. Okay. Any other announcements or anything anybody'd like to share? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Alderman Keller made the motion. Alderwoman Horn, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, meeting is adjourned at 7:44 p.m.